All right, so I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit today about my personal process for making models like this Wabbajack from Skyrim. So first of all, I have actually lost the first 30 or so minutes of me making this where I actually set up the base shape. I started this head from a cube, but unfortunately that didn't record, so I don't have that. But these files are done. I've actually test printed them, and if you guys are interested in grabbing these for yourself, they are available for sale on my website, and I will link that in the description below. But anywho, so in terms of my actual process, backstory, if it's helpful, I went to college for animation, so I learned how to model for animation. So like how to make a face with good topology, so if you're, bending the mouth around and stuff, it's going to deform nicely. Because of that, I usually will start out my modeling with a program called Modo. It's very similar to Maya or Blender, where it uses polygons. You manipulate individual edges, faces, vertices to create whatever shape that you're looking for. I just like Modo. It has really nice hotkeys that make this process way faster. So in Maya, you have to right click and there's a little pie menu that pops up and you have to click on, if you want vertices or faces. And in Modo, it's all done through hotkeys, which for me is really nice because I usually toggle back and forth between them a lot. So hotkeys allows me to work much faster. I also just like the way some of their little handles move a little bit better, but they do basically have all the same tools in Maya. They're just sort of called something different. And located in a slightly different space in the menu. Modo has a lot of great rendering tools. I have no idea how to use them because I don't really ever need to use them. But you can see here, so as I've been going, I set up basically one face, and then I've just been duplicating that face systematically and basically reshaping it so that it has different expressions. And the reason that I'm able to do that so easily is, again, because I've set the face up with quote-unquote decent topology that does allow me to very easily reshape it. And part of the reason that I'm able to do that is, again, the college classes did help, but I've sort of been making characters for a while, so at this point I'm sort of able to look at something and be like, okay, where do I really need to put in topology lines to make this functional? So part of that is experience, and part of that is the college class. But there's a lot of great videos on YouTube about how to do this kind of stuff. At some point, I'll probably put out one about how to make a basic face the way that I just did when I didn't have the video recorded for that cough. So once I'm done with Modo, you can see a while back I skipped back into Maya, and I'm using that to add in the teeth. I don't know what it is. For some reason, I really hate hard modeling in Modo. I just find it much easier in Maya for some reason. So usually I'll do stuff like teeth or, other shapes in Maya. I'm also using it here to go in and really easily, basically just rotate all of the faces. And here I'm just exporting random faces like a weirdo, but I'll use it to, seam all the faces together. I think it's a little bit easier for me personally, again, to do rotation of specific angles. But I literally am at this point just going through and just sort of randomly attaching all the holes, and it just so happened that everything attached together really beautifully. There was a reasonable number of edge loops to do things with, and I was able to actually close up all the insides without a lot of trouble, which was actually surprisingly unexpected. I was pleasingly surprised by that. So at that point, once I had the faces were I knew going to be, the main area of detail. So after that, I just sort of went in and started building the staff piece off of them. So that's something that I would qualify as, again, a little bit of hard modeling, which is why I'm doing it in Maya instead of Modo. And you can see that I have actually set up some good orthographics. Recently, for my own personal projects, I'm like, I can literally just go into Skyrim, open the console, spawn the object, and take pictures of it for good orthographics. So that's actually how I got all of my reference images. So I didn't start, I didn't rip the game mesh and start working off that or anything like that. I literally I did go in though and take pictures with my phone. The screenshots are really janky on my computer, I don't know. But I took pictures of my computer screen with my phone and I combined them into Photoshop. So I have one nice, very easy to work with orthographic. And it does make life much, much easier for modeling. So I've been, propagating those and using those throughout each system. And usually when I start working on something like this, I don't make this to scale. I think this started out as about 30 centimeters tall or something really stupid. And then I ended up just scaling it larger in the end. If there was any really thin areas where I wasn't sure how they would end up looking, or, once I scaled it up, I wanted to make sure that it was definitely the correct thickness so it wasn't too thin to print, I would probably scale this much sooner than I did. I would recommend doing that anyway. It is kind of living on the edge dangerous to scale it as late as I did, but sometimes it's just what I do. I don't know why. So at this point, I really am just kind of going through and shaping the staff in Maya. again, just a bit of hard modeling. I used a twist modifier, and then apart from that, I used like 3 tools, usually in Maya, like the extrude tool, insert edge loop tool, and merge to center tool, and that's 90% of the tools that I use when modeling in Maya. But anyway, so I was happy with the base shape at that point, and I went into ZBrush to start sculpting. And at this point, when I was doing the mustaches, I was like, oh no, I don't have... my tablet is broken because the charging port is trash and doesn't work, so I had to wait for a little adapter to come in. But I was able to do the beards with my mouse, and then at this point, I finally got... so I was able to go through with pressure sensitivity and sculpt the little beard hair, so you can see where it like tapers off the bottom. I wanted that effect, and I couldn't get it with a mouse, and I'm just like, I should wait, otherwise this is just going to be me wasting time. So I did basically just go through randomly sculpting things in ZBrush. So ZBrush, the usual workflow for me is to make a model in another program and then bring it in and sculpt on it, and then either export the actual sculpted dense mesh if I'm going to 3D print it, or if I'm doing something for rendering or animation, I will, export it as like maps so that you don't need the bajillion geometries. There are some people that, honestly, I really envy them. At some point when I have time, I'm going to go through and learn ZBrush a little bit more. But there are some people that would like basically just start from a sphere or whatever in ZBrush and like come out with a full human. And I'm just like, how? This is magical. And anytime I have tried doing anything like that, it looks completely appalling. Especially like for posed characters. Like faces, maybe. But posed characters always impress me. So a few years ago, I tried to model a posed character. And I tried to model it in pose, and the arm, it looked awful. Like, the arms weren't even close to the same length. One was, like, 2 hand lengths longer, and it was just super horrifying. So now what I do if I need to make a posed character, I'll model it in D-pose, or A-pose, which is basically character standing perfectly straight and arms stuck directly out to the side. And then I will rig the character, basically make it a little skeleton so that I can move it, and then I will pseudo-animate it into place. And that way I get symmetrical limbs, which is important to me and most of the people that commission me to make characters for them. But yeah, so I don't know. I'm always really impressed with people that can do that in ZBrush, but at this point, again, I'm still pretty much just sculpting the head. I just sort of was going in and adding a bit of extra random detail, just kind of freeforming it, trying to make it look a little bit more interesting. ZBrush and Maya kept crashing on me because they're both sort of buggy. I don't know what it is. For me, for some reason, ZBrush, when I'm opening it, I have to click the ZBrush button and then do nothing. If I touch my computer, about half the time the program will crash and I'll have to reopen it. So it's just like this weird superstition I have now where I'm like, if you touch ZBrush, you do nothing while you open the program. Once it's open, it's fine. But like, as it's opening, don't touch your computer. It's just like my weird superstition. Same thing for exporting displacement maps out of ZBrush. I'm just like, you click the button and you literally do nothing. Your computer is dead to you while ZBrush is exporting stuff. So at this point, I think I'm done my sculpt. So there's this great plugin for ZBrush. If you look in the Z plugin menu, sort of up towards the top, it's called Decimation Master, and it does a really fantastic job of going through and stripping. It was like 10 million poly object or something super insane, and I think I got it down to like less than 200,000 polygons, which for something this large and this relatively detailed is insanely impressive. So this is not gonna like break your computer to put it in and try to slice it. I love Decimation Master. It is my favorite. I used to use Mesh Mixer before, and Decimation Master is 1,000 times better. Like, I love it so much. It's also way more efficient. It might take a while to process your model at the beginning, but then it'll allow you to sort of toggle back and forth between things really fast. At this point, I had an area of really low geometry in my sculpt, so I went into Mesh Mixer and very quickly just threw some extra geometry in that area, and then went in and did a little bit of resculpting in ZBrush, and in like 2 seconds, you'll see me using the Decimation Master plugin again. And that will just strip down those extra polys because I hate extra polys. At this point, pretty much what I do when I'm done, any 3D model, is I will just aggressively Boolean all of the objects together. And here I just went in, and some of the areas where the gums or the teeth intersected with the mouth look kind of weird, so I smooth those out a little bit so it was like a nicer transition. And at this point, I was basically done with the actual shape. So this is just me going through and adding holes for support rods and slicing my model. I decided to make it about 54 inches tall. I saw some dude who sculpted this out of wood, and that is the height that he made it. I did reslice the head, realizing this was a very stupid way to cut this. But yeah, so this guy made it about 54 inches tall. So that's what I did, and that should be about a foot shorter than I am. I'm about 5'6", so I'm like, that seems like it would be a reasonable size staff or something. I kind of wish I made it super huge, but that would be unnecessary. But yeah, so then I'm just export all my models. I did a little test slice just to make sure that I was threading a 3/4 inch dowel through this, and I just wanted to make sure that that would actually fit. So I did a little test print of that before, spending a bajillion hours and a bunch of plastic for a hole that wouldn't fit anything. But yeah, so that's pretty much my process for doing sculpting. Again, I'll link the Sketchfab and the files available for sale on my website in the description. So hopefully that was helpful and or vaguely interesting. That's pretty much it. I'm out of time. So, see you guys, have fun with whatever you're doing today.